Joink. Okay, welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to the three-part Leprechaun franchise recap here on Movie Mondays with Matt Plus. So, we've been talking a lot about Leprechaun here today. I talked about part 1 through 4 in the last couple of episodes. Hoping to wrap things up here. I'm already losing my voice, and I busted the setup a little bit during the break here. I was rummaging around in me pot of gold trying to find me last gold coin. Here it is. There's a story with this. I'll get to the story in just a minute. So, let's continue to talk about Leprechaun, shall we? We left off with part 4, Leprechaun in Space. I hate that one. I hate Leprechaun 4. I hate that the Leprechaun went to space. It just, it was silly. It was too silly. Low-key, I'm glad it happened because where else can you take the Leprechaun at that point? You take him to the hood, really. You take him to space. Where you go now? You go to the hood. So Leprechaun 5 is Leprechaun in the hood. And after Leprechaun 4, Loki killed the franchise for a while. 1996, Leprechaun in the Hood didn't come out until 2000. And it's the first time that there was just kind of a gap in the series. So anyway, this one has Ice-T in it, which is huge. I love Ice-T. And he's a big horror fan, so I'm glad that he agreed to do this. The other thing, all these Leprechaun movies are low-key, like low-budget movies. They're like $1 million or under. And so Warwick Davis didn't get paid much to do this. The big-name celebrities in these movies, they didn't get paid much to do it. They agreed to do it because of the recognition of this series, was what it was. And Warwick Davis did this out of passion. He loved this character, and that's why he kept coming back for at least these next couple. He just kept coming back. So anyway, Leprechaun 5, Leprechaun in the Hood. It's, again, the rules are different. They don't make sense. There's like a time jump again. So we start in the 70s. And the Leprechaun is in like a subway tunnel. He's a statue. He's been turned into a statue, which is an element they showed us in Leprechaun 3. But who knows how we got there, what's going on, doesn't matter. Continuity, story, none of that matters. He's just there. And Ice-T is there, and the Leprechaun comes to life, starts attacking Ice-T and his pal, and Ice-T is able to make off with the Leprechaun's little golden flute. And this little golden flute has like the magic power of like making people pay attention or think that you're awesome, I guess, because he'll do a thing, he'll blow the magic flute, and then he just has all this luck, and people pay attention to him, and it's a whole thing. And then we time jump to present day, 2000, where our new cast of characters, they're like 3 aspiring rappers. They're just trying to make a name for themselves, and they see Ice-T and they have dealings with Ice-T, and they go to rob his place. And in doing so, they accidentally wake up the Leprechaun because the Leprechaun statue was there, and they took the thing off of his neck that turns him alive. And then they steal this magic flute, and they start to use it in the way that Ice-T did. And I guess before they go out and perform, they like blow the magic flute, and then suddenly everyone just thinks it's the greatest thing ever. So I think that's the magic power, is just like, oh, you're awesome and special, you've got the magic flute. Some of the rules don't make sense in this one. Anyway, so they're trying to just make a name for themselves on the rap scene. Leprechaun's coming after his flute. Ice-T is coming after the flute. There's all this stuff going on. There's a pawn shop owner. That one is really silly and weird as well, and it feels super low budget as well, but it's still fun and enjoyable. I like that one a lot. I liked it more than 4. It was a breath of fresh air after 4. It kind of took the series in a slightly different direction. And then the Leprechaun raps. He has a whole rap song at the end. And another thing I love about this one, the Leprechaun is not defeated in the end. He's always defeated. This time, the Leprechaun wins. And he makes everybody his puppets at the end. They're all dancing around to his silly song that he's rapping to. And it's just a wacky ending that the credits are playing over. I love it. It wasn't so wacky that it was more over the top than like part 4. But, you know, it's a fun watch. Leprechaun in the Hood, it was great. Now, we're going to talk about part 6, which was supposed to be Leprechaun in like the tropics or the Bahamas, or Leprechaun on vacation or something like that was the plan. Leprechaun on spring break, I think. And they saw how well Leprechaun in the Hood did and say, you know what? Why mess with success? We're bringing him back to the Hood. And that is exactly what this is. Leprechaun Back to the Hood is part 6. And it's a little confusing because there's a 2 in the title. So every now and then if I was at a video store, I'd see Leprechaun 1993, then Leprechaun Back to the Hood right next to it. It was confusing, but you know, it doesn't matter what order you watch these movies. There's no continuity whatsoever. So starting with Back to the Hood, there's another random opening that's happening that looks like it's just picking up from a previous installment, but it's not. It's like this church is under construction, and the Leprechaun's there, and he's attacking a priest or something. And anyway, there's another time jump, and we see our new cast of characters who discover the Leprechaun's gold, and before the Leprechaun can get to them, there's a little twist where they actually pawn off his gold and actually become rich before he can track them down. So then the Leprechaun gets upset that his gold is all over the place, and he just starts going on another Leprechaun murder-a-thon trying to get his gold back. You get a new cast of characters, which, fun, they're all pretty fun characters. And is this the one that, I think this is the one that randomly has Coolio in it, if I'm correct. He's just there for no reason, Coolio. But hey, give us random celebrity cameos, we love it. What else happens in this one? This one I like a lot because it leans back into the adventure and the action and the horror and the scares, which really they've been shying away from since part 1. And you get some of that in 2 and 3, but it just went way too silly in those. And this one was like, the Leprechaun is a threat again. He is scary again. And he does diabolical things again. So that was fun to see. And again, Warwick Davis agreed to do this one just out of love and respect for the franchise. And so it was good to see him come back. I really appreciated this one when it came out. It was kind of the Leprechaun movie I needed at the time. I just wanted to see a throwback to how they did it in part 1. And that's what we got with this one. Again, the ending doesn't make sense, and they like, yeah, the rules are different. They seal him up in concrete, and it's like if you destroy his gold, maybe that destroys him, but then that's not what happens. Anyway, doesn't matter. None of that matters. It's just a fun, entertaining Leprechaun movie. And I didn't know it would be the last Warwick Davis installment at the time. There was supposed to be a part 7. Right on the heels of this, there were so many news articles coming out about, oh, Leprechaun 7, you know, it's going to be him in the Hood again, or it's going to be actually him on spring break again like it was supposed to be. Leprechaun in the Old West, Leprechaun in the Dark Ages, Leprechaun is a vampire. And they had all these wacky ideas that had been floating around for years. None of them happened. Nothing came to fruition. There is not a proper Leprechaun sequel that came out until 2018. And so we all just kind of sat in limbo And we all kind of still are with a new Warwick Davis Leprechaun installment. So that was 2003. Nothing happened with the franchise again until 2013. That is when Leprechaun the Reboot came out. And there is a lot to say about Leprechaun the Reboot. Give me a second. Garbage. That's really all there is to say about that one. I really dislike the reboot for many reasons. First of all, I don't like reboots, period. But like this particular Leprechaun movie misses the mark on every possible front. First of all, you go to see the Leprechaun movies to see the Leprechaun. And the Leprechaun's personality is fun, and that's what you want to see. If they're rebooting Leprechaun, you'd think, well, they just have a new actor, that's what it'll be. And yeah, they did get a new actor. They got, what was his name? Professional wrestler. I actually got to meet him. Really nice guy. Hornswoggle, that was his name. He was actually in Duluth here in 2019. He was wrestling. That's where I got to see him. I should have brought it in today. He signed a Leprechaun hat for me. Really nice guy. It's unfortunate that his movie was not better. So, when this movie came out, he was signed for a 2-picture deal. It was supposed to be Leprechaun the Reboot and then the direct sequel, both featuring Hornswoggle. And they featured Hornswoggle constantly on like the posters and the early merch, or not really merch, but just like early awareness posters and stuff. It was his face, his human face, not as the Leprechaun. And I thought, well, if Warwick Davis is not wanting to come back, and what I heard is that he didn't want to come back because he didn't really want to do horror anymore because of his kids. Like, he was like, well, I don't want to make a movie that my kid can't watch, or something along those lines, is probably why he just didn't want to come back for 7. Maybe there was just too much of this development of part 7 and it burned him out. Maybe that's why he didn't want to come back. In any case, they rebooted it only because Warwick Davis didn't come back, and this reboot is terrible. It's just called Leprechaun Origins, and the Leprechaun in this doesn't even speak. He doesn't do anything that's noteworthy or fun. He's boring. They do lean into the horror, I'll give him that. I'll also give him this, that they went and kind of did their own thing with this movie. At this point, this movie is so different. Don't call it Leprechaun, call it something else entirely. It's a group of typical annoying American tourists who come through into Ireland, and they run into the Leprechaun there. And it's like this whole town conspiracy. They have to sacrifice tourists to the Leprechaun to keep the Leprechaun at bay. And it's the whole thing. Interesting idea. It shouldn't have been done as a Leprechaun movie. And the biggest crime is that the Leprechaun, not only do you barely even see the Leprechaun, but when you do see the Leprechaun, you barely even see the Leprechaun because it's so dark. You just see shapes and movements, and you're like, what does he even look like? What does this Leprechaun look like even? And you're hoping that he has the get-up, he's got a buckle on his hat. No, none of that. He's just like a creature. He's like a troll crawling around. There's no personality whatsoever. They buried Hornswoggle under all that makeup and all those prosthetics and whatever they put on him to make him crawl around, that there's nothing left. And all he does is like crawl around, and gruesome things happen, and that's it. And like, why would they do this? Why would they do this to the Leprechaun franchise? The Leprechaun is known for his one-liners and his zingers and his playfulness and the traps he sets and all that. None of this applies at all. And I was so outraged by what they did to the series that in this Blu-ray box set, it does contain Leprechaun Origins. I actually started watching the behind-the-scenes featurettes to see what this creative team was thinking. I was so offended, and I just got more upset by watching these behind-the-scenes because the creative team keeps saying over and over again in these featurettes, everything we're doing is out of respect for the original. Everything we're doing is in the spirit of the original. We want you to see the personality of the Leprechaun. We want to continue to carry the torch from Warwick Davis. We want it to feel like a real Leprechaun sequel. All this stuff they're saying that does not apply to this particular movie. It's like, are you guys talking about a different movie? Because none of this makes sense. You're basically all lying to us at this point, that you're doing it in the spirit of the original. There was nothing fun, nothing mischievous, no personality behind it. It was just its own weird little thing. And if you watch Leprechaun Origins on its own merits and call it something else, American tourists trapped in Ireland while a creature is chasing them, then it's its own thing, and I can look at it differently. Because there were things that weren't bad about that movie. Just lumping it in with the Leprechaun franchise, it's like it was a pre-existing script that they didn't even bother rewriting, and we're just like, this is what we're calling Leprechaun now. So, a lot of people hate this one. I do for the specific reasons that they were selling it to us, to me, a mega Leprechaun fan, as something in the spirit of Leprechaun, and it's not at all. It was very deceptive, all of that. And the audience noticed, and the audience revolted. And it was so bad, the reviews and all of that, when this one finally came out, that they canceled that sequel that they had planned. There is no Leprechaun Origins 2. That was always the plan. So, poor Hornswoggle, he didn't ask for all this. Crawling around and all that stuff, he did the best he could with what he had. He probably thought when he signed on that it would be more about him in, his personality and stuff, but that was never the case. So, that's enough. I'm done talking about Leprechaun Origins. So, there's one more installment that did come out, and it is called Leprechaun Returns. And this one is incredible. This one came out in 2018, so 5 years after Leprechaun Origins, and they finally got it right with what they could do. They did the best they could with what they had. So first of all, Warwick Davis still wasn't going to come back as the Leprechaun, so they did what they should have done from the beginning. They found a new little person to play the Leprechaun, and he does a great job. I think his name is Lyndon Porco, if I'm correct. Yeah, that sounds correct. And it's supposed to be the same Leprechaun from part one. So the story is, this is the first direct sequel. This is the first one that carries over continuity. Part one goes right into Leprechaun Returns now. And it picks up like 30 years after, or 25 years after part one. Leprechaun is still trapped in that well, and Ozzy shows up again. They actually got Mark Holden back. It was really good to see him again. And he's the only real legacy character that comes back. And he accidentally frees the Leprechaun from the well. Then they immediately kill him, which I was very sad about, because I was like, oh, they went through all this trouble to bring him back, and they immediately kill him. I guess that's it for him, but luckily he does hang around. Like, his ghost hangs around, and he's trying to warn the new the new cast members that are showing up about the Leprechaun and the history, and then you get like Jennifer Aniston sound-alike, who and it's her daughter. The whole thing is it's the same character that Jennifer Aniston played in Part 1, Tori. It's her daughter now, returns to this farmhouse, and it's like they're trying to build some, college house out of it, and they're trying to be environmentally friendly, and there's those messages in it. And the Leprechaun's on his rampage again, as he was in the first one. And he recognizes that that is Tori's daughter. Anyway, there's some good, fun, hilarious stuff in it. Lyndon Porco does a great job actually carrying the torch from where Warwick Davis had stopped being the Leprechaun. And that was a fun installment. It showed up on the Sci-Fi Channel, and I was hoping they would immediately make more because the response was pretty decent to this one versus the reboot that nobody liked. So, yeah, this was fun. I need to rewatch it because it was a good one. I just wish they didn't kill Ozzy right away. It's always heartbreaking to see your legacy characters get killed. I don't care in what context, it's always disheartening to see that. So they shouldn't have done that. But then they did it again in a fan film. And I'll talk about that one briefly. So Fuzz on the Lens Productions just recently made this new Leprechaun fan film called Leprechaun Revenge. And it's Lyndon Porco again playing the Leprechaun, but it retcons that sequel, and it's like a new start on it, where the Leprechaun just randomly shows up. Mark Holton is back again as Ozzy, and once again they kill him right away, and it was very disheartening to see that twice in this franchise. And it's like a little less than 10 minutes, this short film. It's on YouTube now, and it was fun. It was well directed and everything. I just wish they didn't go that direction and kill him right away. But it was a fun one, all in all. And they got the exact Leprechaun costume back. That was cool to see. So that is it for the Leprechaun franchise. Before I let you go, I'm going to briefly recap my week off. I've been off for a long time. Like as soon as the last stream on the last episode ended, I was out the door and I was on the flight to Florida with my family. And we went and did some fun things that are movie related, and I'd like to share a few of those things with you right now. So, Matt's family vacation slideshow to Florida, yay, here we go, zoink. So, starting here, we're on a glass bottom boat. It's one of the places, Silver Springs, I believe, in Florida there. What a surprise was waiting for us here. There's my family. We had no idea what we were about to stumble upon. What you're seeing here is the Black Lagoon, from the creature from the Black Lagoon. And here we go. They announced that on the tour. They said, yes, Creature from the Black Lagoon was filmed here. That is exactly where Rico Browning was hanging out. And it blew our minds. Here's my dad and I. This is the actual Gillman costume used in the Creature from the Black Lagoon movies that Rico Browning wore. There he is, behind glass there. He is our favorite Universal monster. Our minds were blown that this was even a thing. Didn't know we were stumbling into that. Normally I research like filming locations and stuff when we go on trips. This was a complete surprise to us. And what an amazing, this easily was the highlight of my trip. And here's a closer look at the Gillman costume behind glass. Sorry for the reflection. Okay, so now I'm going to show you some other filming locations. If any of these intersections look a little familiar to you, if you're a horror fan like me, you might recognize some of these shots from none other than Jeepers Creepers. Jeepers Creepers was filmed right here. Look at that tree. Does that not look familiar? This is where the creeper ran them off the road. And here we go. Here's my family. It's my aunt and uncle, my mom and dad. We stayed with my aunt and uncle there. And I didn't know they were right in creeper country. They filmed it not far from their place. So wherever we went, it just felt like we were in Jeepers Creepers. There was even a Jeepers Creepers truck out there, which was amazing. And so I looked it up, and yes, that's exactly where we were. We had a good time. We saw dolphins. We saw all kinds of stuff. Here we go. And this is the last surprise that I wanted to show you. This is when I met Warwick Davis, the Leprechaun himself. There's his last gold coin. I specifically went down to see him in Florida. This was actually not this Florida trip. It was the previous Florida trip, 3 years ago, actually. I went down there specifically to see Warwick Davis and hit Halloween Horror Nights. I went on a ghost tour. There was like a Ted Bundy's ghost, all kinds of fun stuff. But the main thing, I wanted to meet Warwick Davis. He is the #1 on my bucket list that I needed to see at the time. Here's his autograph. And I dressed as the Leprechaun to see him. And in leaving, I got to see his family. They were all just chilling there. They specifically flagged me over and asked for me to come on over and take a picture with them, and I asked for the same, and they were the sweetest people. It was good to keep the spirit of Leprechaun alive during that little trip. And that ends that. We'll go back to Cam here, joink. So that is a little recap of Matt's family vacation down to Florida. All movie things related in general. So, thank you for tuning in on this extremely long Leprechaun franchise recap. Hopefully you've stuck with me to the end here. Oh, and here's the gold coin, by the way, that I gave to Warwick Davis. I gave one to him and I kept one so that he's got his last coin. I've got my last coin. And it'll always be a special little memory I have from Florida. So, there is that, and yeah, I suppose I'll tease ahead to next week before I let you go here. Next week, we were talking about the Oscars a little bit this morning. We're going to talk a little bit more about that next week. There's an Oscar-worthy film, just won an award. We're going to be talking about that one, and it is a horror movie, and that's what's on the docket for next week. So, once again, thank you for bearing with me for this gigantic Leprechaun-centric episode. Go on out there, watch the Leprechaun movies if you have time. For me, it's not St. Paddy's Day unless I do. So, go do that, eat some Lucky Charms, have a Shamrock Shake. Just enjoy the day, my friends. Thank you for tuning in. Happy St. Paddy's Day, and until next week, stay spooky, my friends.